Welcome to Getting Sketchy Live, brought to you by thevirtualinstructor.com. And now, let's get sketchy.
Hello there, everyone. Matt here with thevirtualinstructor.com, and welcome to Getting Sketchy Live, the greatest live broadcast in all of YouTube. I'd like to welcome all of you guys, wherever you are, all over the world. We're, of course, glad to have you with us tonight as Getting Sketchy is back this week. I had a few people email me and a few people post on the forum and everything about where was Getting Sketchy last week. Well, last week, Ashley was away with some of his new students and new colleagues at a camp. So we didn't have Getting Sketchy last week. So here we are this week. And this week it's my turn to do the drawing. But before we get into that, let's say hello to Ashley, who's sitting right over there. Ashley, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, Matt. Thanks for asking. I hope you folks are doing well also. I apologize we weren't here to draw with you last week. So I hope in the last 2 weeks you found some time to draw on your own and that you're ready to follow along with Matt tonight.
Absolutely. And we're ready to get into this in just a minute. But first, for those of you who are new to Getting Sketchy, what is this exactly? Well, it's either where I tried to create a drawing or Ashley tries to create a drawing for you guys inside of 45 minutes. So we're going to have a timer up and everything in just a few minutes. And we're also going to sprinkle some instruction in as well. And this season is all about creating artwork in the style of another artist, famous artists throughout history. And my artist tonight is Janet Fish. And we'll talk about Janet Fish in just a minute. But I want to remind you, if you're new to the channel, or if you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click on the notification bell so you're notified when new videos like this one are uploaded and when we go live, of course. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a like, of course. And if you want to go a little bit deeper with your drawing and painting skills, then there is the membership program over at thevirtualinstructor.com, which includes a variety of drawing and painting courses on a variety of subject matter: colored pencils, pen and ink, acrylics, oils, pastels, realistic drawing, graphite drawing. It's all covered there over at thevirtualinstructor.com. There's also weekly live lessons, which after tonight's live broadcast here on YouTube, Ashley's going to start a new series on distortion, which is going to be a really cool live lesson series. We do those every week for an hour for members, and we answer your questions live there. And there's also weekly critiques as part of the Members Minute, and there's a year-long curriculum for visual arts teachers as well. All of that is included in the membership program, and everyone starts out with a week-long trial for free. You can click on the link in the description below if you want to learn more about the membership program. There's also another link down there where you can just check out 3 of our course videos and ebooks for free, and that will also put you on our mailing list. So whenever I periodically send out newsletters, and you also get a series of free art lessons too when you sign up for that. Not just the free course videos and ebooks, but you get a series of free art lessons as well. So you can check all that stuff out, of course. You can check it out now, or you can check it out later, but of course I would encourage you to check it out one way or the other. Since this is live here on YouTube, we do have a chat box going. And this season, we're encouraging you guys to use the super chat function on YouTube. We do have a lot of people who post comments and questions, and the super chat function will allow your comment or question to stand out amongst the other ones. It's also an opportunity for you to support us. We do this each and every week, and of course, it's free to you, but there are production costs involved. Of course, so any bit that you can help us out with is certainly appreciated, and the super chat is one way to do that as well. So I hope everyone is doing fine this evening, and we see your comments and questions, of course, and it's glad to see all of you folks that I know your name, even though I've never seen your face before.
A lot of familiar names in the chat tonight, so
right,
we're glad to be with you guys and to see all those familiar names. And Jen had asked if I had fun at camp, and Jen, I did have fun, and I'm still recovering. I'm still tired. 72 hours with teenagers is I'm used to being around teenagers, but I usually get a break sometime in there, and this was pretty intense all the way through. Lots of fun though, lots of fun. We had wonderful weather,
and you can't ask for much more than that. So Ashley's in a new climate, a new area as far as education goes, and I think you're enjoying the transition.
Yeah, I am, and I was sleeping in a cabin with 5 of my brand new colleagues that I didn't know at all, and after the 72 hours, we're pretty close. We're pretty close.
I bet so. Yeah.
Closer than I'd like to talk about here on air. So,
okay. All right. So the artist that we're talking about tonight is Janet Fish, and Janet Fish is actually one of my favorite artists. Yeah. I'm not sure how many folks know much about Janet Fish, but she was really interested in reflection and, glass objects, transparency
of any sort. Yeah,
transparency and reflection. And if you guys have been around for a while, you know that I really like it too. And what's interesting about reflection and transparency is it's really not as difficult as it may look. And hopefully you'll see that tonight as we go into the drawing exercise, where I'm going to try to replicate Janet Fish's style. Here's a piece that we're looking at here. All of these that we're going to look at tonight are oil paintings, and they're all very large. Janet Fish, of course, is a contemporary American realist artist, though when asked in the past how she felt about being a realistic painter or a photorealistic painter, she would prefer to be referred to as a painter, just a general painter, not necessarily a photorealistic. Through oil painting, lithography, and screen printing, she explores the interaction of light with everyday objects in the still life genre. Many of her paintings include elements of transparency, as we already mentioned, plastic wrap, water, glass, reflected light, and multiple overlapping patterns depicted in bold, high color values. She has actually been credited with revitalizing the still life genre. So here's a look at a few of her fantastic paintings. And again, these are large paintings. So if you saw them up close, you would really see the blocks of color and value that she used to create these illusions.
They look so incredibly tight when shrunken down on a screen. But,
right.
There's a lot of energy in her mark making if you have a chance to see some Janet Fish in person.
For sure. All right, so I think we're ready to get into this one. I am pretty nervous about this one tonight because I am not totally sure I'm going to be able to get this one done in 45 minutes. And it may sound like I say that all the time because I really do say that all the time. Those of you who are part of the membership program know that I really enjoy challenges, and I give challenging projects to you guys too as students. Yes. And tonight's going to be a challenge for us all, but it's also going to be hopefully an aha opportunity for you guys to see that difficult subjects aren't necessarily as difficult as they may seem on the surface. So hopefully we can prove that tonight one way or the other. So let's go ahead and switch over and get into this one.
Let's do it.
You know, when you said the "let's do it" thing, in my head I went, you know.
That should be our walkout music for next season. What is that, Tone Loc?
Tone Loc. Yeah, I don't think we can use Tone Loc.
Not without his permission. So
no,
I don't have him on speed dial. I know you're surprised by that.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
Is it your perfume bottle, Matt?
It is a perfume bottle, yes. Could you smell it?
I said, is that your perfume bottle?
No, I don't wear perfume. I used to wear cologne back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
I have cologne. I just never wear it. I don't think my wife really actually notices one way or the other. Anyway, there's a photo reference. If I can get my hand in the camera.
Beautiful.
There's a photo reference that we're working from over there. You can download a copy of this photo reference for yourself if you want. If you want to do this exercise later, or if you don't, if your screen's not big enough or whatever. If you go to the community tab on the YouTube channel, so to get to the YouTube channel, click on the little icon of my face underneath this video, and that will take you to the YouTube channel. And you'll look for the community tab there, and the top post on the community tab will have this photo reference and a link back to this video too. So if you lose your place, you can come back there. It's a little bit harder to find on tablets, but it is there. You might have to kind of scroll to the left or the right to find the community tab. So as you can see, that we're going to have a challenge tonight, drawing this perfume bottle or cologne bottle. It doesn't look like it would smell good to me. Looks like it's nice and aged. Yeah, maybe it smells like cedar.
It looks like whiskey or rum. Actually,
really
they should make these brighter.
What? I don't know if this is a perfume bottle. This might be one of those little things that you light and it releases scent. Maybe.
The oils.
It's not an essential. Maybe it's
essential oil.
I don't think it's essential oil.
Okay.
We don't really know what we're drawing tonight.
And we don't have to. As long as we can see the shapes and the colors, we'll be okay.
Right. But you know what? it's very Janet Fish-esque.
Definitely.
And hopefully our drawing will be as well. The materials I'm using tonight, I'm using a little bit of mixed media here. First of all, the surface is marker paper, and I am using Canson marker paper. Reorder and just keep using Canson marker paper and over again. It's a great surface to work on. It is semi-transparent. I don't know if you can see that down there. So I like to put a sheet of Bristol paper underneath it, so it looks nice and white. And all of the marker drawings that I've done that are framed and put up, I always keep that sheet of Bristol paper behind it. Bristol paper is a little bit more rigid, like cardstock. And of course, my paper doesn't look transparent as a result of that. This paper is nice and smooth. There's very minimal tooth on the surface, but you can still put a couple of layers of colored pencils. So if you're working on marker paper, you probably need to use markers with it, along with the colored pencils, of course. The marker paper, the benefit it has over traditional drawing paper can kind of soak up the marker and it can bleed a little bit. This paper prevents that from happening, and it makes it a little bit easier to blend your markers and create transitions if you want to do that. You have to kind of work quickly to do that, but it is possible. I will be using a variety of Prismacolor alcohol-based markers to complete this image. It is important that you use alcohol-based markers. Alcohol-based markers have a little bit of transparency associated with them, so you can layer them. For example, this pencil or this marker is French Gray 70%. That's already a pretty dark marker, but you could put one layer down and then go over the top of it again, and it gets a little bit darker. Traditional markers, water-based markers, don't usually do that.
So that allows you to fine-tune your value, get you value control, I guess.
Right. These kind of markers are a little bit closer to like watercolor. They're not really remotely like watercolor, but as far as their transparency goes, so you can kind of layer a little bit. And I also have Prismacolor colored pencils as well. Now, I have already isolated a few colors. I'm definitely going to be using more markers than I am colored pencils. And then for our finishing touches, we're going to use a little bit of Posca marker here. Ooh. Instead of getting the gouache out and instead of getting a brush and all that stuff, I've pulled out two Posca markers here. One's white and one is a very light yellow. In fact, the official name of this yellow is Sunshine Yellow. Okay, but it's really just a light value of yellow. And I have a variety of different yellow oranges and yellows and things as far as the markers go, and a couple of grayscale markers too. And I've just got these isolated and pulled out. But we're going to start things off with a H graphite pencil. So I'm going to create a very light drawing and just kind of get an idea of where all our little shapes of different values and things are. And of course, the shape of the perfume bottle. All right. Are we ready?
Are we timer ready?
I think we might be.
Okay.
So I'm shaking a little bit.
Did you mention the size of your paper?
Oh yeah, good. Yeah, this is 4.5. It's 4.5 inches wide and 6 inches tall.
Okay.
So 4.5 by 6. And I always create my drawing surface. You can see I've drawn out a picture plane. I always do that, and I always make it proportional to my photo reference. So it's really easy to do that in Photoshop. You can just pull up your photo reference and then go to image size and change it from pixels to inches, and then play around with different, put in the height that you would like, and then it would spit out the width already for you. And so you can play around with that.
This is 3-to-4 ratio. So any 3-to-4 ratio size you choose would be proportional to the paper.
Right. In this case, but I'm talking about like any size that you want to kind of get an idea of what size your paper should be. You can just do that real easily in Photoshop. That's one of my little tricks of not having to know math in order to figure out what size my drawing paper needs to be. So anyway, I'm procrastinating now.
Are you stalling, Matt?
I'm stalling. I'm definitely stalling because I'm definitely nervous about this one.
Well, it's not going to draw itself, so we better get started.
Well, if we wait here long enough, it might. The part that I'm most anxious about actually is getting the initial marks in place, because typically I would rotate my paper to get the angles that we've got here. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to draw it flat like this so you can see it. So that's really what I'm most nervous about.
I know that does add a little challenge. I like to pull towards myself, and when I've got to make those subtle angles that are almost horizontal,
well, you've got these angles.
It messes with me.
You know, you can kind of see it. If I continue that angle across on my paper, that is such a slight diagonal.
It's like a 5-degree, 3-degree angle, something like that.
And, that's a hard line to make. Mm-hmm. It's a hard line. All right.
You can do it.
Let's go ahead and dive into this one. So the timer is now up, 45 minutes.
All right, we're rolling.
And I'm going to get started. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of look at the negative space on the left side of the picture plane and find the right edge. And let's see, we need to bring that up right about here. And then we're going to draw our first diagonal, which is almost flat.
It's like a really low parallelogram on the top of this bottle. Really acute and obtuse angle in there.
It's a rectangular prism, but it's really flat.
Our eye level is I guess the eye level is pretty much right at the very top of the cap. So not much higher than the bottle itself.
Over here on this edge, we'll figure out where that is, and then we'll try to figure out where this diagonal needs to be. So I'm thinking about obviously the lower part here initially. And
so
this
you've already sort of carved out where that slight angle is going to be on the top right corner of our bottle. It does have a little bevel or edge to it. And the one on the bottom seems a little, I can see that in your drawing. It's a little bigger.
Yeah, it is a little bit bigger at the bottom than it is at the top. And this little corner up here, looks almost straight there, but that's not exactly. Even though I'm trying to draw with accuracy, I am drawing with multiple lines here. So, and one thing is important here. Well, there's lots of things that's important, but this diagonal needs to be on par with this diagonal. So that is a little tricky.
So even if your diagonal's off a little bit, as long as they match, they're going to feel like they agree with one another.
Exactly.
But I don't think yours are off, but if they were, the most important thing is that they agree with one another in the finished drawing.
So there is kind of I don't know if would this be a bevel?
That's what I called it.
Chiseled edge.
Yeah, I'm not real sure.
All right, pretty basic shape, actually. All right, now we can see some of the information on the inside here. So we know that there's another edge over here, and we've got bits of visual information in there too. That we've got some lines that kind of go across. And it's not totally clear where the edge actually is, but we can kind of get an idea of where it is. And in our final drawing, it doesn't have to actually be spelled out.
One thing about reflective surfaces, they're really dazzling to people who don't draw. When they see them, they feel like they're looking at some sort of a magical illusion. But in some ways, a lot of what makes that happen are pretty distinct shapes that have clearly different values, and in some ways that's actually easier to capture than really smooth surfaces with really smooth, slow gradations and changes of value. So we can see that in this reference. If we look maybe on the right side, the thin right plane, it is just filled with distinct, tiny, dark shapes that are pretty hard edge. And of course, they're strange and distorted. So like Matt mentioned, even if you don't even if they're not perfect shapes, as long as they have the character and the right amount of contrast and hard edge, it's gonna feel like glass.
Yeah, and really the key to depicting transparent and reflective objects is all about contrast and value. So we typically see with reflective surfaces, we have a dark value right next to a light value a lot of times. Where on other objects, we might have a transition.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of see this liquid, whatever it is. It's got to smell good, right?
Yeah, I'm sure it
even
does.
If it's
I'm sure it's expensive and
even
it
if
smells
it's
great.
lamp liquid or whatever.
Somebody mentioned that it looks like a table lighter, like those old-timey table lighters people would have when 100% of the population smoked, and you have these big lighters.
Much like the animals we draw on here, we know absolutely nothing about what we're talking about here with the objects. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put the cap on here, which also looks like a pretty complex shape.
Yeah, it's like it's made of leaves or spades or something like that.
But we're going to simplify it.
Okay.
So I'm going to figure out where it kind of is and kind of create a cylinder there. And then we're going to pull the shapes out of that cylinder.
Valerie Gentry from North Carolina mentions that she has found Cheap Joe's, and I had mentioned it before in a show, and it's her new happy place. So I'm glad you discovered the art store Cheap Joe's, and I was happy to be in one of their stores for the first time not that long ago myself. Love art stores. Well, I don't. Some things I never buy. I just look at them and touch them and put them back. So. But I think I had bought, last time I was up there, I bought some pens and a black pad of paper. I think my son got Posca mark. Oh,
Valerie, thank you so much.
Valerie has given out a
super chat.
Super chat. Thank you for that.
Now, there is, I've been told that there's a difference between the super chat and then a super sticker. I think that is a super sticker, but it still counts.
It's a super sticker.
Super sticker. It still counts.
All right.
Thank you for that, Valerie. We really appreciate it. All right.
Yeah.
So we've got these kind of leafy shapes.
Mm-hmm.
They're really kind of nice little shapes here.
Elegant.
Let's bring this up a little bit higher.
Kind of like a crown around the cap.
And then our next piece kind of comes across here. Not as high as the other one. We're going to let it connect right there. So here I'm just simplifying this object or these shapes that seem complex by starting with that cylinder shape. Mm-hmm. And then these pieces can kind of just fit into that.
That's a good point, Matt. You didn't start with all the pointy bits. You gave yourself a foundation to lay these across.
And we can see that cap, the real cap, is hidden in there. And then we've got a little bit of another little flame. I wonder if these are like they're supposed to look like flames.
I was wondering if they were fire myself, especially given the fact that this may be something you light. That kind of makes sense.
And speaking of things that you light, there are wicks in there. So let's go ahead and.
Unless it's a diffuser of some sort,
Well, there are strings in there, so we'll just quickly put those in here. Of course, they're distorted because of the fact that they're in liquid. And one of them is hitting the edge of the glass here.
Yeah, and seeing that sort of double string in there, that really contributes to our sense of what glass and transparency is or does. But it's still very distinct hard edge shapes. So impressive to look at, but also drawable, quite drawable. Seems to be the consensus in the chat seems to be that it is some sort of an oil lamp.
Yeah, I think it is.
so.
I think
You folks are right.
I think I was calling it a perfume bottle.
Well, I'm glad you didn't pour it all over yourself. You'd be
no chance of that.
Torchable, on fire.
Okay, let's bring this over here. And then we're going to see how far behind I am on my schedule.
Have you kind of, in your mind, planned out when you'd like to switch from one medium to another?
This sketching process should have taken 7 minutes.
All right.
I'm behind.
You're close.
But behind. All right. We're not going to spend too much time cleaning this up here.
I've been doing that a little bit myself. Kind of planning out how much time I want to have with one step versus another.
All right. Let's start with the markers. And I'm going to start with pretty light yellow here. You'll have to forgive me. I'm going to go very quickly here. So I'm going to put colors down and do it quickly. So I'm not going to be calling out the names of the colors real quick. We're going to start with this light yellow. And what I'm actually going to do is pretty much cover a lot of this.
So you see that as your lighter color that happens sort of throughout there. That's what you're using for the
yeah, it's a lighter color, but we're going to have to make some adjustments with the colored pencils to these because some of those really light colors on the top, it's just not available in marker form.
Right. They're light and also kind of weak.
Right. So we'll adjust these colors, but what's great about this initial application with the yellow is we can still see the pencil lines through them. Now, even when I'm drawing this out pretty quickly with the yellow, I am still looking at my reference. So I am thinking about the directional strokes that I make with the marker, although it might not seem that important.
Still kind of following the direction of any of those planes in there.
Right.
I see.
And we're not going to worry about the highlights, the really strong highlights at this point, because we're going to be able to put those in with the Posca markers at the end.
All right, very good. So you don't have to save the paper for those white specks.
All right. Go ahead and just fill in all these little white specks. All right, next I'm going to switch over to a gray here. This is, let's see, do we want the 50% French gray? Let's go to 50% French gray next. And we'll just go ahead and start up here on the reflective areas on the top. And then we'll bring some of that French gray into the bottom part. Now this gray is a warmer gray, so that makes it pretty good for adjusting the values in the glassy part.
I see.
But we'll use it up here too.
You know, Ryan Nebula's wondering if the pencil lines will be covered in the end, and these are relatively transparent markers, but where your pencil marks are when you look back at the reference, those are mostly the very dark areas or edges. I mean, along the very edge, you know, top front edge and that center vertical corner, those are really dark reflections in there. So I think that in your case, if they're not covered, they're going to feel like part of those darker reflections that are right up against some of those other shapes in there.
Yeah, you won't be able to see the pen. I mean, you will if you look real close, but
they'll be incorporated. I would say they're incorporated.
Nothing to worry about.
You have no
here.
plan of trying to go over it with an eraser at the end or anything like that.
Well, once they're covered with marker, you can't.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So, yeah, no plans to do that. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go into, actually, I'm going to go a little bit darker here. We're going to use the 70% French gray first. On here, we're going to go a little bit darker. There we go. Just get some of the areas of dark value first. Go ahead and start getting some of that contrast going.
And again, this French gray is a really warm gray.
And we'll do the same thing up here.
In fact, some French grays almost feel like a brownish gray. You know, they're so warm. And colored pencils.
So again, the key here, just keep in your mind, the key is contrast and value and shapes of value. And we're typically going to see dark values right next to light values. So if you look for that, you'll probably start to see it. Now, our colored pencils can go over some marker applications to a certain degree, but you still kind of want to be a little bit careful.
He is flying through that cap.
Yeah, I'm not really sure that I am. I feel like I'm going way too slow. I mean, there is so much information here that I could do this drawing and spend 3 hours on it easy.
Yeah, you definitely could.
I at this size, on this size paper, but we're going for speed here.
That's right. It's a great exercise to draw under the timer. It's kind of like a race against the sun. Connects us to the challenge that artists in the past faced before electric lights. Sure, there were plenty of artists in the old days that tried to paint by candlelight, only to be disappointed with the colors the next morning.
All right, so now I'm just looking at shapes where the value is a little bit darker, and I'm trying to mimic those shapes to a certain degree. And I'm being a little bit free with myself so that it's not exact, doesn't have to be exactly the same, just needs to be similar.
Similar shapes and similar values, that's the key. You know, that yellow you chose is a great color for this. But even if you don't have that exact yellow, color is flexible. You know, that's why black and white pictures look pretty much just like the ones in color, except, you know, in terms of describing the surface, the type of a material, in this case glass, that an object is made from. So you don't have to have the same colors, but the values are important.
If I see an area of dark value, I'm not asking too many questions. I'm just going in and putting it in really quick.
Just bumping it in.
Going back and forth between my reference.
I like these little broken lines you're putting in there. That's nice.
Well, they're kind of out of a necessity because...
makes them feel thinner and lighter, you know.
All right, next let's go in here with a little bit of a different yellow here. That's what I want to use next. We'll find out. This is Spanish orange. Just going to start getting a little bit more differentiation between the initial yellow that we used. Again, working way faster than I normally would if I was doing this as a finished drawing. So keep that in mind. I don't want you to get frustrated if you're drawing alongside. You're free to
Right.
take your time, of
Right,
course.
you can go past the timer, and we go a little past the timer sometimes ourselves.
Which might be necessary tonight. We'll see.
Brent Does Art wonders why you chose to go with some gray instead of brown.
Oh, I've got brown coming.
All right.
There's lots of layers coming there.
And where you put like, I'm just thinking like that dark shape at the bottom right that you used, I guess it was that French gray over top of, or
Yeah.
70% gray. The yellow that was underneath it is still influencing the ultimate color there. And that area, for example, it's kind of brownish, but it's not as warm of a brown as what we see happen in the bottom middle of the bottle. So maybe more sense once more of that brown comes in.
I have switched now
that
to
difference.
a goldenrod.
Oh yeah, I knew goldenrod was going to make an appearance. That's a funny name. I think isn't goldenrod like a weed or a plant, but it's a valuable color in the Prismacolor brand, both in colored pencil and marker.
Okay, so I started kind of light, and then I made some dark, strong, contrasty marks, and now I'm slowly going back to adding darks gradually.
All right, Nebula says, I love the sound of artwork being created. So the mic must be picking up those squeaky sounds.
Oh yeah, a little ASMR for you.
I can hear it too.
So I think already we've kind of starting to see some transparency.
For sure. Yeah, we see a little bit of that distortion or the refraction of some of those shapes down near the bottom. That makes a big contribution to our understanding of what glass and transparency, the attributes of glass and transparency. Now, we're on the top of glass. I know that there's some types of glass that is a kind of an old glass that was used, however it was made, whatever composite of the glass, where if you shine a light through it, it almost glows. And I don't know if anybody out there knows the name of that type of glass, but I know it's become sort of a collector's glass in the last few years. And I have a friend who goes from, he goes antiquing and goes from thrift shop to thrift shop looking for these little, what I would call a whatnot, that were collected in the 1920s and 30s. And I think he just shines his phone light, his camera phone's light through it. And they'll light up almost like they have their own little energy source inside. It's crazy. I had a student tell me that some glass before the 50s or before 1954 had uranium in it. And so maybe it's those two things are related. Collector's glass.
Interesting.
Uranium glass. Jan says it's called uranium glass. There you go. So I've got this really old bottle in my classroom. Of course, I'm new to the classroom, so I don't know how long it's been there. But I'm going to I think we've got a Geiger counter in the science department, and I was going to see if it would, see if it's radiating. See if it's uranium glass with a Geiger counter. But pretty cool stuff. I mean, it is beautiful when you shine that light through it. And I don't know if it was a regular, I can't remember, I'll have to ask my buddy, if it was just his regular camera phone's light or if he had some sort of a special light or laser or something like that he was shining into these little trinkets of glass that he had picked up and was showing off.
A laser?
Laser.
Laser. All right, this is Sienna Brown.
It glows neon green.
Got
That's
next.
right. It's very neon. All right, what color is that again?
Sienna brown.
Okay. So this, it feels like this is about your 6th or 7th color so far. And you're just working your way down.
I'm not counting, but yeah, maybe.
With these warmer colors, starting with that lighter pale yellow, and then the Spanish orange, and the goldenrod, and now you're on to this sienna color. Besides the grays, I think that's about
soon
6.
we'll be on to the brown.
Okay, Brent Desart says you just check the glass with a black light. Okay, that's it. He must have had a black light bulb in some sort of flashlight. All right, I can get a black light because when I went to camp last week, it was neon theme, and we had a dance party under black lights, and everyone wore neon clothes. So there's black lights all over the school right now, somewhere.
All right, again, I'm just looking for shapes of color and value.
I mean, I'd almost forgot that wick was in there until you've been carving it out with those darker shapes now. It's coming back.
Yeah, we'll bring that back mostly with grays in a few minutes. All right. Now let's go on to dark umber. No. Yes, dark umber. Yes, dark umber. All right, this is going to be pretty dark. This is the dark brown.
Now, these markers are alcohol-based. When you use them and then they dry very quickly. When they dry, do you notice them getting just a touch lighter?
Yeah, some colors it's pretty obvious they get.
That's what I was
wondering. Not as obvious, but yeah, they do get a little bit. Most of them do get just a slight bit lighter.
All right.
Seems like the lighter colors definitely get noticeably lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Where some of the darker colors, they don't necessarily get noticeably darker, but they do get, or lighter, but they do get a little bit lighter. But this is going to be the darkest marker that we use in the glass.
Okay.
But we're actually going to get a little bit darker with the colored pencils.
Well, Mary Elizabeth says she's looking forward to colored pencils. So,
well, there's not going to be a whole lot of colored pencil work in this, actually.
Mm-hmm.
The colored pencil is going to do a little bit of the refining work at the end.
We've got still a good chunk of time on the clock at 17 and a half minutes.
How much time? 17 minutes? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That is reassuring.
Yeah, Janet Fish, I guess, all of her work was still life, and it was pretty exciting, So a lot of times people think it's still life. I know when I mention to my students, we're going to do a still life, they never say, yay. Now, sometimes they're exciting still lives once we get to our assignment, but it just doesn't just the concept itself isn't exciting to them. But her artwork was so unusual. I mean, I don't remember. I know you showed the bottles, like I don't know if they were like vodka bottles or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she did some still life with just clear plates stacked on top of one another. So it was lots and lots of subtle changes in gray and pretty exciting stuff. And I had mentioned to Matt before the show started that I really love her produce, like the packaged is that cellophane or it's the plastic wrapped packaging?
Yeah, I guess it's cellophane.
Yeah, I love those that she did, and they're not glass, and you get more distorted reflections in those, like we saw I think in the tomatoes, the first image that Matt showed. And I've seen some of those that were done with pastel, and was really surprised when I saw them that they were actually made of pastel. So her oil paintings and her pastels are very similar. She really had a high control over her medium and sort of realizing what she wanted to get out of a subject, what she wanted to capture, and she didn't really let the medium ultimately determine the finished look of her artwork. So she really arrived at the same place, whether she was using oil paint or pastel. That's nice to see.
All right, initially that was 20% French gray that I put on there, but it's not quite as dark. So I'm going to make some adjustments to some of the values here using the 50% French gray.
All right.
And so you can, if you don't find a good combination of color and value, you can put the color down and then change the value with a gray scale marker. And kind of tweak it a little bit. All right, so let's
Get a nice strong value range.
we're going to go to, well, let's see, I need to use the gray here again. Let's go ahead and start putting a little bit of definition on the strings here, or the wicks.
Redbird, I see your question, and Matt is using marker paper. And it's Canson marker paper, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So really holds a nice edge on these marker strokes.
All right, to define each one of these the details here, I'm going to go to a lighter gray.
Just thinking about that braided pattern in there now.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to get it in there. There's not enough time for that.
No,
so
you're
I'm
not
just
going to count you're not going to count those braids.
No, I'm just going to kind of suggest that there's a texture.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, well, we've got this marker. Let's go ahead and go up here back to the top.
And this is the 20%?
This is 20% French gray. And now everyone can get ready. Well, wait a minute. Not yet. Let me put a little bit of this burnt sienna up here. We've got a streak of it right there. It's reflected. Another little piece right there.
Oh, yeah.
And put a little touch of the yellow up here too. That's actually a little too hot, but we'll tone it down with colored pencils in a minute.
How long have you been using or had this marker set?
I think since 2016.
Okay, so they've really lasted quite a while.
Oh yeah, they'll last for a long time. All right, now I'm going to do something really crazy, and I'm going to use black if I can find it. Where's my black marker? Oh, no, what happened to my black marker? Stop the timer. Stop the timer.
Somebody throw a flag.
I am not kidding. My black marker is missing. Where is it?
Is it? It's not. It didn't
It's in
roll
front
onto
of
the
my
floor?
face.
Oh goodness! If it was a snake, it would have bit you.
If it was a snake, I would have been really dead. Okay, so we're just going to use this up here on the top. And I see the time now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to have to go over a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. You still got almost 11 minutes.
Yeah, but I haven't even started the colored pencils yet.
True.
Although the colored pencils are not going to take as long as you would think they are going to, but they're going to take a minute.
Seeing the value range expand on that cap now. It feels like it's starting to feel like it matches the bottle. Feels like it belongs on this bottle since the values are so distinct and far apart down there in the glass.
I also feel like there's a spider crawling down my back too right now. So there's that too. So talking about a snake biting me, might be a spider biting me.
Spiders and snakes. Getting close to Halloween. It's hard to believe we're halfway through the month of September this year already. But I am enjoying and noticing a little change in the weather in our part of the world.
And you live for that.
Right, I am almost appropriately dressed.
All right, we're going to switch to colored pencils now, and we're going to start with dark brown. Where did I put that? All right, this is dark umber, one of my favorites of the Prismacolor line, and we're going to use this to just kind of refine things here. So we're going to refine some of the edges of some of the reflections and things, and you're going to notice that it is a lot stronger than the markers when it's applied. I swear there is something crawling down my back. I am not even kidding.
And it's not the timer.
The timer is definitely. Why would the timer be crawling down my back? It's yeah. Oh, it's on my back. Yeah, I got it. No, it is. There's a bug or a spider or something, and it's in my shirt now. I am not even kidding. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. What is it?
We need to switch back to the main camera so you guys can watch Matt squirm while
I am squirming over here. I'm not kidding. What if a spider has dropped down from the ceiling and gotten on me? That I would not be surprised by that at all.
I imagine you get a fair amount of spiders out here.
Yeah.
I know I do. I mean, anytime you have trees in your yard, you live under, big trees, it's spider alley. Mary Elizabeth says, stop the timer, no bugs. She thinks it's an acceptable reason to pause the timer is to make sure you don't have bugs crawling on you.
No, not acceptable.
The show must go on.
All right, so up here we've got, you can start seeing some of that additional contrast there with the colored pencils. You see, you can use it to sharpen up the edges. And re-establish that little line where the fluid is.
Yeah, some funny comments in the chat about bugs laying eggs inside of you, and
okay,
maybe it's an earwig. Oh, I don't even want to think about that. Yuck.
Well, at least they care.
Yeah.
Okay, next, let's do a little bit of. Let's see, what are we going to do next? Let's add a little bit of intensity to some of these yellow areas. Maybe just a little bit. Just Kind of create a little bit more variety in here.
What color is that, did you say?
No, this is goldenrod.
I had a feeling. Goldenrod makes its second appearance on the show tonight. Oh yeah, that looks good.
Right. Now
Brenda says Matt's photo is drawing is better than the photo, and it is a little it's a little punchier. You know, it's got a wider range of value in there.
Well, that's
so it
something
really
that
pops.
that's something that Janet Fish did.
Mm-hmm.
She accentuated things and made them a little bit stronger as far as color relationships and contrast goes. All right. Now with this, we're going to start creating a little bit of that transparent look. This is 20% cool gray. So we're going to go right over the top of some of the marker applications.
It just mutes those colors a little bit.
Right, and gives it a little bit of a smokier appearance
nice.
like the...
We see that in the reference. There's some nice comments in the chat. Amazing drawing. Matt looks amazing. Reflections and colors.
But it's not finished yet.
Not finished, and we have a whole nother medium to use. I guess not completely different.
No,
but not alcohol-based markers.
Yeah, those are going to be real quick.
Yeah.
We still got some work to do on the cap, though, along with what we're doing down here on the reflective areas. Let's see here. All right, real quick, I'm going to take this color, which is sand, and just kind of smooth out that middle area there.
Just pulls it together a little bit. Yeah, nice. We've got a vote for the favorite drawing of the season so far, and that reminds me, we will be choosing our own favorite drawings at the very end of the season on our recap show. So we're only halfway through the season. We've still got a lot of time together.
Yeah, that's very true.
This is the 5th drawing. We've got 5 more drawings to go, and then our critique show, where we talk about what we did and what went well and what didn't, and that show is a lot of fun too. So we'll hope that you'll be with us over the next 6 weeks.
All right.
Getting a little bit of more contrast in the intensity is making a nice difference there.
Oh, thanks.
And what's happening above the liquid just is a little different in terms of intensity than below the liquid, interestingly.
Yeah, it's a real subtle difference, too. It's almost like they don't want you to know that there's stuff in there. All right. Are we waiting for a little bit of white here? Let's go ahead with a little bit of white. Of course, we're going to be doing a lot of the white stuff here with the Posca markers in a minute, but I'm going to add just a little bit more textured information on here. And I'm doing this really quick, just trying to get an idea of that there's some texture on those wicks. All right, up here on the top, let's start adding a little bit of refinement. And I would love for someone to guess the next color that I'm going to use. If you guess the next color, I'm going to be astounded. You'll be an A+ student if you guess the next color that I'm going to use, and nobody's going to guess it.
I'm writing down a color. And let's see what comes up in the chat. Of course, we are on a delay.
There is a delay, yeah.
Orange, white,
No.
black,
No. And you know what? I can't find. Oh, there it is.
purple.
I'm in a state of panic
Purple.
over here, guys. No, it's not.
Ochre, indigo blue.
Oh, who said indigo blue?
Valerie.
Valerie, you're right.
Boom! Valerie is a mind reader. She's prophetic tonight.
It is indigo blue that we're using next, and we're using it up here to create a little bit
Folks
more of
said
a
blue as well, or
crisp
purple or
edges.
blue. Yeah.
And it's going to make this reflective area a little bit more interesting and contrast the orangey nature of what's below it.
All right.
Very good.
From one end of the color wheel to the other, from one end of the value scale to the other, all here in this drawing. Got so excited about the color guessing game that I forgot to look at the timer.
Yeah, it's got to be almost. Time's up. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so we're going to go a little bit over, but not
it's
much.
Just a suggestion.
Not much. I'm going to put a little bit of that indigo blue along the bottom to create a little stronger edge. And then we're ready for the magic to happen here. You see how that indigo blue mixes with the brown and creates some more natural black. You see down there in our darkest areas, I'm using that indigo blue, believe it or not. Love the combination of indigo blue and a dark umber.
Comments. Jan mentions that that pulled it all together in the cap using that blue, and it did.
All right, so we need a little bit of
Grays
cast
and blues
shadow.
there at the end.
We need a little bit of reflection or whatever that is underneath there, and then we need to add the highlights and things.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there had been a question about the shadow, or I guess it's a reflection in this case, but it's super weak. Guess you could do it with just a flat shape.
What, the shadow?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to try to mimic
Going to try to get
what I see there.
few shapes in there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of, it's just a slight bit of this goldenrod. And we'll just put a little bit of it over here too. Just a touch. And then we're going to use the 20% French gray here to make our shadow. Or reflection. Whatever you want to call it. Whatever you want it to be.
I'm going to stick with reflection. Because it's, it's
kind of like a reflection / shadow.
There's like a shadow in it. Over there a little bit. A shadow and a highlight there on the right. You've carved out a little white space for that highlight that's coming through. Kind of like how light passes through, I guess, and lands in the shadow on these clear objects or translucent objects. Sometimes it happens with also. That grounds it a little bit. Now it has a place to live.
All right, now for the magic.
All right.
Okay, we're going to start with the yellow Posca. This is Sunshine Yellow. And I'm going to go right in here and make this little hot spot a little bit brighter and more yellow. And then right here. A little bit of a hot spot right there too.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll just look for opportunities to create a little bit more of a vibrant yellow right over the top.
Posca markers, where have you been all my life?
Yeah. It's like, I'm telling you, it's gouache in a pen.
Yeah, that's right. It's a good description.
I mean, that's what it seems like it is to me.
You know, gouache almost disappeared once. Now it's going to almost disappear again. I know there, like me, there's people out there that love to do full-on gouache paintings, not just use them for highlights. You know, so I know it won't disappear. But at least one of the reasons that I like to use gouache, particularly with colored pencils, is for the same type of application that Matt's using, for little highlights at the end.
So this is, of course, my favorite part, because this is when everything starts to look like metal and reflection, again because of the contrast, the strong contrast.
Contrast
and we see those
hard edges.
We see those dark values right next to the light values, don't we?
Yep.
You can make it as shiny as you want.
Jan says amazing. DJ says love the highlights.
Thank you, guys.
What a difference they make. It already looked like glass, but now it looks like super polished, shiny glass.
Well, we want our glass to be clean, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like just adding my own little areas, or make a few little areas a little bit stronger, because highlights are so fun, aren't they? And of course, we've got a little bit of reflection off the surface.
Yeah.
I can go real overboard with these.
He's going to put highlights on there until it's a white object.
All right, this obviously I'm back to the yellow one.
All right, awesome. It looks great.
I'm going to call that one finished.
Yeah, it looks great. A cap, boy, I tell you, when you put those longer white strokes on the cap, it really jumped.
Yeah. That makes a big difference. And I'm going to tone these highlights down on the bottom with a little bit of yellow colored pencil. Ooh, I like what that did. Let's do that over here too.
You going over it? Over the, oh yeah, wow.
Over the highlights.
Look how bright they look now.
Yeah, they look like bright yellow. Ooh, we need to do that in a couple other areas, because
so those Posca markers dry pretty fast.
They dry extremely fast.
Pretty instant.
And strangely, just like gouache, you can go right over the top of them with colored pencils. Strange, huh? It's a little bit harder to go over acrylic paint.
Yeah, it is. It kind of
pencils.
resists that because it's so non-porous
but with
so
gouache,
plastic.
You can go over the top of them. Yet people have insisted that it's not gouache.
We're going to have to break one open.
I'm not convinced.
Get our microscope and look at the molecular structure. PJ Hall has offered up a super chat and doesn't have a question, just has a smiley face with some jazz hands. Thanks, PJ Hall.
Yeah, thanks. And for some reason, the cheer's not coming up.
Oh, no.
That's weird. Why is that happening? Oh, there it is. All right. Just had to push the button a few times, I guess. All right.
Fantastic.
All right. Okay, well, that's it for me tonight. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let's
I think
switch
everybody
back out
did.
over
And there was
here.
a nice collection of media used together tonight.
Oh, the comment about the pencil marks at the beginning.
Yeah.
People concerned about that. I can still see the pencil marks that go outside of the drawing. You know, there's a couple of stray marks here and there, but you can see here, you can't really see the pencil marks at all.
They're under the drawing now.
Yeah, so that's not something that you really need to worry about. All right, let's switch back out over here then. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I definitely enjoyed creating this drawing for you. This is right in the area of what I like to do. I like to do high contrast, transparent, reflective objects. It's such a cool look. And as you saw tonight, hopefully, it's a lot easier than it may seem. It's just paying attention to the shapes of color and value and recognizing the fact that you might see dark values right next to light values. In fact, you will see that. There's less of that smooth transition between darks and lights. Still exists, but there's less of it. So anyway, Ashley, do you want to tell them what you're going to be doing for next week?
Yeah. For next week?
Yeah. Do you want to reveal your artist yet, or you want to keep it a secret?
I'm not certain. So
okay.
I've got my list, but I'm kind of between two. So we're going to have to keep it a secret for just a little bit longer.
Okay. Well, then we'll have to tune in next week and see which artist Ashley has picked.
I'll tune in next week to find out, and you guys can tune in with me. And Matt and I have got another show to do in about 15 minutes, but you've got time to sign up for a free trial membership if you'd like to join us at the very beginning of a new lesson series at thevirtualinstructor.com.
That's very true. And of course, that link is in the description below this video. Guys, thanks for joining us. I see a part of this drawing that I left out. But if you can figure it out, you can let me know in the chat box, or not in the chat box, but in the comments below this video, because this live broadcast is over now. Like Ashley said, we're going to be creating or starting a brand new live lesson series over at thevirtualinstructor.com. So I know we're going to see some of you guys over there in just a minute. I look forward to that. No, I haven't found the spider, but I can't feel it right now. So we'll see
it's found a hiding place.
Where it is. Something was crawling down my back in the middle of that. Anyway, make sure you like this video if you like it. That means clicking on the little thumbs up button, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And the last thing, have a great evening, or good day, wherever you are, whatever time zone you are in, or whatever time you're watching this in the future. With that, we'll sign out. Good night, everybody.